Good afternoon all. Welcome to the September meeting of the Town of Newbury Human Resources Board. It is 4:08. Let's call the meeting to order. Present are Mark Gleckman,
John Ferrara,
Anthony Antico.
Lynn Peabody.
Thank you all. We have a quorum. Both Diane Doyle and Chief Fisher are out of town today, but we are legal with a quorum, and so let's jump to the first order of business, which is to approve the meeting minutes from August 28th. Diane was kind enough, as always, to get those to us in advance. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
yes.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah, let me open up the motion. And
Oh,
then,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
okay.
Is there a
Okay.
motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion?
On paragraph 4, I was a little confused reading about the IT communication manager,
Yep.
John, who starts on September of 2024.
Yeah, that should be 25th. Good catch, Tony.
Okay, yeah, I think it should be
Yep.
2023.
Good catch. My understanding is that he's on board.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that. Did you see anything else, Tony?
No,
Okay.
that's all I've seen.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as written, minus that minor edit, say aye.
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 Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is employee issues. Diane has sent me a note in advance indicating that there are no employee issues that she is aware of, and I can only assume that that would be the same with Chief Fisher, since we did not hear from her in that regard. Next item on the agenda is personnel actions and job vacancies. As we discussed in last month's meeting, a couple of key positions have been filled and folks are on board. Pleased to report, based on conversations with both Diane and with the town administrator, that the process of reviewing candidacies and looking seriously at folks for the fire chief position is well underway. A number of excellently qualified candidates had applied. My understanding is that 4 of the 5 who had been chosen for the first round have in fact gotten through that process. I think one may have dropped out. At this point, a couple of sessions have been held. 3 of the candidates, I believe, are heading to what is called the assessment center, which is a fairly rigorous process that is done primarily by folks in the profession. A board, if you will, an oral board of folks in the firefighting profession. And once that is done, then I think either 2 or 3 finalists will go in front of the select board for their interviews, reviews, and hopefully recommendation to hire. And that process looks like it might take another 2 months, give or take, given schedules. Yeah. So that's where we are. Anything I can answer for you beyond that regarding the fire chief position?
So the assessment review, so can you explain a little bit about that?
I don't know a lot of details. I know that all of these candidates have been scrubbed pretty thoroughly by the search firm
Yep.
that was employed to do the first round, and the result of that is that there were 4 or 5 folks that they felt were appropriately qualified, brought forward, and I think of those 4, or 4 or 5, I think 3 are going on to the assessment board or the assessment center, if you will, which is the second step in the process. And I think they used to call it an oral board, where I'm guessing 4 or 5, maybe a half dozen folks from the profession, including chiefs from other towns typically, are involved in a secondary rigorous screening of scenarios, and if you were the incident command individual in this role, how might you handle that kind of thing?
Okay.
And so I think it's specific to firefighting profession, their qualifications, their history, as opposed to the generic interviews that perhaps a select board member, typical questions about why Newbury and why now, and tell us about yourself. So the process is about halfway, I think, through. A couple of steps have been taken, 2 more left, and the hope is that by, I I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's by mid to late October. The hope is that they will have zeroed in on a candidate of choice.
Good.
So,
Good.
I can't give any more detail. than
No,
that,
that's
sorry.
great, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Although in addition, there's some other news with the fire department. Apparently there have been 2 resignations of full-time firefighters. One that was somewhat expected, one apparently was not. And my understanding is that the interim fire chief is well on the way of interviewing what I understand are very well-qualified candidates for those positions as well. That's obviously a little bit less complex a hiring process, but nonetheless important. And so the hope is that in the next month or so, those positions will be filled as well.
Question?
Yes.
Do they have anything like a union, the firefighters, as the police do?
That's a better question for Tracy, but I believe the firefighters may be unionized as well, although,
Okay.
again, I
don't
really should
recall
take
them
off the question. I'm not
reading
sure.
anything about
Yeah.
it, but.
I don't know.
But when they have resignations of existing people, that's not something that you'd like to hear.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, my understanding is that one may have relocated in the profession to Lexington, I think.
Okay.
The other, I'm not sure. So,
Well, that makes sense if you're not
Yeah.
around locally. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, so 2 full-time firefighter resignations, open positions hopefully to be filled relatively soon. And that's all I'm aware of in terms of personnel actions and job vacancies.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not aware of any personnel, workplace issues, ethics issues, discrimination issues. Once again, that one remains blank, thankfully. Safety issues, again, Chief Fisher and/or Diane did not reference anything related to safety issues. I believe the COVID protocols remain in place as they have been over the last couple of months. We know that things are ticking up a bit. Lynn, is there anything you can speak to there in terms of what you're hearing or seeing around the community, COVID related, or?
Nothing, no changes yet. Nope.
Okay.
So just,
In terms of protocols at the hospital, you mean?
correct,
Yeah,
yes. No, just got some information today that there is no change at this point, and so
yeah,
I have nothing to add.
yeah.
Flu season's coming though, so
Oh, gee.
our mandatory flu vaccines are required by November 1st.
Yeah,
It's interesting, I had my annual physical at the VA and that was mandatory.
yeah,
I
The
wouldn't-
flu
Literally,
vaccine?
she wouldn't let me outside the door.
yeah. Cindy and I got our flu shots last week. We typically do beginning of September.
We got the flu and the COVID
You
shot.
did get both, yeah.
What are they telling you at Anna Jake's about the aptness and comfort zone with the new COVID?
Nothing. No recommendations, no, yeah, the shot that you just got,
Yeah.
yeah, no updates on that.
And do you anticipate that they will come down with a point preference?
So I would defer to our employee health, OC health department on that, but
Yeah.
because we haven't heard any update at this point,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say no, but I don't
Yeah.
wanna go on the record as saying no.
This,
We are seeing, a
Some-
few more masks on folks at the supermarket and
Yeah.
and at other, crowded public locations, not unexpected,
No?
Yeah,
especially coming into this season.
All ages as well.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Other business, we have 2 standing items over the past month or so that we can quickly address here. The first is the review of the salary data that Diane spoke of last month, which has always been available through the MMA, which would give us, at least initially, an understanding as to how Newbury might compare and contrast with some of the other similar surrounding towns. There has been an update on that front, and that is that the benchmark MMA data that Diane has been referring to which is inputted by the various towns into the MMA database, has at least temporarily been suspended.
Oh, gosh.
And the reason for that is that there are I guess there are technical issues with the website, according to Diane. As a result of that, they have broadcast to the towns that they would appreciate it if, at least temporarily, and we don't know how long that will last, they've asked the towns not to input that data for fear of degradation of the data or loss of the data. I'm not sure which, but
Yeah.
that's the bad news. The good news is that subsequent to that, someone reached out to Diane from the town of Manchester by the Sea, suggesting that they have employed an outside consultant to do similar kinds of work for the town of Manchester. And this employee was reaching out to various communities of similar size and type in Essex County, asking these communities if they would be willing to enter data into that database to help Manchester understand some of the same issues we're wrestling with. And apparently our decision is that we're happy to provide that for them, some of our salary data. And the result of that is that once it's all collected, Manchester has agreed to share that information, the broader information, back to us.
So there's the quid pro quo.
Yeah, so it's a quid pro quo, exactly, because we're helping them. They in turn have said that once this data is inputted and they have some comparison to make, they'd be happy to feed it back to us for our benefit. So one way or the other, we're going to get the information we need.
I have some concerns with that process.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should, go publicly on record with having my concerns. I would prefer not to voice those concerns right now.
Okay?
Yeah.
Duly noted.
How many other towns are interested in supplying information?
Don't know.
Okay,
Don't know.
all right,
Yeah, and my guess is it's the same kind of publicly available information that would have been available to us through the MMA database, but let's hold on your concerns, and maybe that's something to address with TA or other
Okay.
people in advance, so
Okay.
quietly, okay?
yep, thank
Thank
you.
you for that.
Also, there was some question last time we met relative to seeking the advice, guidance, and counsel of town council on even relative to even being able to do this. Remember, I forget the specifics of the issue.
You may be referring to the other issue, Tony, which is the confusion we have in the employee handbook relative to the definition of a family for bereavement
Right.
purposes
Oh, okay.
versus
All right, yes.
versus nepotism policy.
Right.
Is that what you're referring to?
Well, it was town council was going to be involved in
In some, yeah,
reviewing
that's the
a
next
few of those
subject we're going to get
items.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we had any discussion about town council being involved in the former,
No.
what we just
No,
discussed,
I
right?
don't
Okay,
think
yeah,
so.
so yeah, you're
I
referring to
agree.
the other one, Tony. So-
Okay.
All right, so Linda, why don't you hold on your
Okay.
thoughts if it's
Yes.
fact something that you don't think should be public at this moment, and maybe discuss it with TA?
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, which brings us to the second topic that Tony was just referring to. If you recall, it had come to us that somebody in the employee population was curious about and perhaps concerned about what seemed to be an inconsistency regarding the definition of a family
Yep.
in the bereavement policy versus the definition of a family in the nepotism policy. And we spent a good deal of time last month talking about whether we feel that there should be consistency there. Then where we ended was realizing that there may be a reason why, when this was originally drafted and reviewed by town council, which it was, there may have been a specific reason why that language was chosen to be different one from the other. And so subsequent to our meeting last month, we brought it to Tracy's attention. She in turn has brought it to the attention of town council. She's waiting to hear back from town
Okay,
council
good.
now.
Good.
So there's probably not an awful lot more we could do on it today. If town council says we did that for a specific reason, because of legislation, because of something legal, precedent, then we may be bound by that. If town council says it's really a call town by town, and if you folks want to define a family the same way for bereavement as you do for nepotism, that's fine with us, in which case we'll then go back to the discussion about whether we feel as a board we should recommend that to the select board.
Mhm.
Okay, because it's the select board's call on the final analysis. So,
Okay.
questions on that one? Okay. I'm not aware of any other new business before us tonight. Does anyone else have other topics of discussion?
Nothing.
Nope. I guess I do, before you
Go ahead.
close that out. So we had done a possible meeting date in October to review
Right.
salary discussions, and so are we going to put that on hold?
Well, Diane's note to me, I'm glad you brought that up. Diane's note to me was perhaps we should hold or reschedule the October 16th meeting because she wasn't sure if in fact we're gonna collect this data back from
Yep.
Manchester, when it would be available to us.
Yep.
And I haven't had a chance to address that with her yet, so let's throw it open. My immediate thought was, we have plenty of time to reschedule it if need be. I was thinking to keep it as a, keep that as a holding
Placeholder.
date
Yeah.
with the understanding that if by October the 6th, 10 days prior, Diane doesn't have or doesn't think she's gonna have enough data available for us to make it worthwhile,
Mhm.
then we can always push it out a couple weeks until after our October meeting. I thought that might be wise rather than reschedule it now, not knowing how quickly the data may become available to us. So, other thoughts on that?
I agree with that.
I
No,
can
so-
support that.
So just keep your powder dry, yeah, it just, you can always change it.
So leave October the 16th in place for now?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a good piece of my thought that I may not be here for that, and maybe.
You had mentioned that earlier, John, I
Yeah,
know.
but I'm still waiting on
Okay.
the begin date. The begin date will determine whether it grabs the 16th.
Okay, well, I'll commit then to doubling back with Diane, she'll be
Okay, good.
back in this week. And get a little bit more detail from her. What she said was, the recommendation is to cancel the meeting tentatively scheduled for October 16th with a further update at the October meeting. Let's just see what happens over the next 10 to 14 days. We're all in agreement that if we have to move it back into November, we can.
Yes.
But if we're pleasantly surprised and we feel we have enough data available to us by the 16th, we can keep that in place, because I think it's on everybody's calendar, so.
Yeah.
We good with that?
Good.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't have anything else. Other folks?
Nothing for me.
No?
No.
Seeing no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.